One tool that can be very helpful in our everyday lives is something called the assertiveness curve. So before I pop out the assertiveness curve, I just want to take the cognitive model back out and just go over it one more time. This is the model where we have our environment, and within our environment, we have our thoughts, feelings, behaviors, and physiology that are all connected to each other. And we have a recording on this tool. But I wanted to mention with the assertiveness curve that this is a place where we can target trying to change our behaviors to affect our environment and improve our feelings. And so I'll explain that in a second. I'm just going to pull up the tool here. All right. So this is the assertiveness curve. And it's one of my favorite tools in Innerworld because it applies to so many different types of situations. The basic idea of assertion is that it's a behavior. These are a range of behaviors that we can engage in when we're interacting with other people. So situations where the assertiveness curve might be helpful include ones where you might be talking to a supervisor and you might feel super nervous. You might have conflicts with a partner and maybe you find yourself yelling at them. Or maybe you find yourself kind of oscillating between being passive and aggressive towards people by doing small things that kind of get on their nerves. Or maybe you interact with someone who does some of these things. The assertiveness curve is a tool that we can use to help us assert ourselves to communicate our needs without being aggressive and without being too passive. So let me explain how it works. The basic idea is that this is like a gas meter on a car, and we want to be in the middle where we are being assertive and we're respecting ourselves and we're respecting the other person as well. It's kind of this good balance where we're able to assert our own needs while still respecting those of the other person. On the left, we have being passive, and that means that we're not respecting ourselves. We're kind of shutting down and not letting it out, not expressing our needs and what we need in the situation. And then we also have aggressive, which is not respecting the other person. And this is, yelling, kind of doing certain behaviors that might come across as aggressive. And to use this tool, what you can do is spawn it and think of a situation. If there's a situation where you're having conflict, where you're seeing someone else have conflict, spawn this tool in your home and try to think to yourself, in the situation that I'm thinking about. So let's say that I have a supervisor and the supervisor has said negative things about me behind my back. So in that situation, I could think about the 3 different types of responses that I could have to my supervisor. So a passive response to my supervisor might include, my just not saying anything because they're my supervisor and I don't want to get in trouble. An aggressive response might involve something like yelling at my supervisor or banging my fist on the table or something like that. And then what would an assertive response look like? Well, it's probably not saying anything, which is what passive is. It's probably not yelling at the person, but maybe it's something in the middle. Maybe it's having a conversation with your supervisor. And this tool is very helpful because oftentimes in our heads, we think that there's just being passive or aggressive. So oftentimes, if you talk to someone who's being too passive in a situation, they might say, yeah, well, I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want to come across as aggressive. Or someone who's being aggressive in a situation might say, well, I'm not just going to sit there and take it. But this tool is very helpful because it shows that there is actually a continuum that we can be on in a situation where we can choose a behavior that can help us respect ourselves and the other person. And the other key to this is that our behaviors are tied to what we're thinking and our physiology. So if we're feeling like our heart's racing, we're super angry, we're getting upset, then that's going to affect our thoughts. There might be thoughts racing through our heads. And so maybe it's easier to be aggressive in a situation. Or if you're feeling lots of fear, your heart's racing and you're thinking, oh my God, I'm going to get fired. I'm really worried. Maybe it makes it, more likely that you're going to be passive. And so the assertiveness tool can be combined with some of our other tools, like the worst case, best case, most likely tool, which we'll go over in a different lesson, in order to help you kind of overcome these different types of situations. And a really cool thing in Innerworld meetings is that you can learn how other people are using the tools and hear from their examples, as well as work with our coaches who can help you through these situations and teach you how to use the tools in your specific situation.